Welcome to another episode of the Bank Free Blueprint podcast. And today my guest is Ben Studley. Welcome, Ben.
Hi, thank you.
Yes, glad you could make it on the show. Ben, you work with Landsman Lending. You're in San Diego. From what I understand, that's a company that's been doing private lending for close to 50 years now, or maybe over 50 years.
Yeah, over 30 years. Yeah.
Oh, 30 years. Okay, gotcha. And let's see, you went to school you have a degree in civil engineering and structural engineering.
Yeah, I did my undergrad and my grad at Old Dominion University in Virginia.
Okay, great. So what brought you from the East Coast to the West Coast?
Yeah, I grew up in Maine, born and raised on a small island off the coast of Maine. And I'm not exactly sure what it was in particular, but something back when I was a young kid put San Diego in the back of my brain, and it hasn't left.
Well, I can see why.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always wanted to live in San Diego my whole life. So after graduating, I packed up and drove out and figured it out. Very
cool, very cool. I had the opportunity to live there for a little over a year while my daughter was she was going to college between there and LMU in Los Angeles. And so I had the chance to live on the East Coast for a while as well. So that was really cool. So
yeah, totally different.
Yeah, great place. So you're a real estate agent, you do hard money, but you also do mentoring. Can you just describe a little bit what your mentoring is, maybe what areas you really enjoy focusing on? Give us a little background on that.
Sure. Yeah. I started in hard money close to 4 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a two-prong approach of both hard money and flipping, since that's pretty much the same exact industry, but two opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And what I noticed, though, with the hard money was that everyone was very afraid of it. And, they heard the double-digit interest rates and they ran the other way. They didn't understand the benefit of using hard money.
Yeah.
So I learned that right off the bat, and I took an educational approach to my business growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was going to events and talking with people, I was focusing on educating them on how to use hard money rather than come use hard money.
Yes.
And what I then started to realize with all these events, even though I could provide a better financing tool to these clients, they would still go with the lenders that were hosting the events.
Yeah.
So
that rapport is built, and I mean, imagine they feel comfortable tying it in with what the training is, even though the money is money.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, I understood that. And so after about a year or so of attempting to go about it that way, I decided to start my own meetup event.
Okay.
And start having people come to my event that I hosted as a hard money lender, to where I could provide the education, the tools, the tips, the know-how on hard money financing.
Okay.
That was my approach a couple of years ago, and it turned into a full-fledged mentorship. After a few months, it kind of evolved into it. I partnered up with a buddy of mine named Aaron, who flips full-time.
Mm-hmm.
So he's flipping, anywhere between 30 and 60 homes a year. And I'm financing anywhere between 10 and 30 loans a month. So between my financing side and his actual flipping side, we came together and built this mentorship to where we help people get used to flipping houses or get their first flip done.
Yeah, I see. The meetup that you have, is that online? Is it in person, or is it a combination?
Mainly in person. So we try to shoot for monthly meetups.
Mm-hmm.
Where we hold them at our houses that we're currently flipping.
Okay.
And so, it's usually one of Aaron's houses that he's flipping, and we try to do a before and an after. So we'll meet at the house, probably after demo, sometimes before, but usually after demo, it's just a blank slate. And people that are attending can see kind of, the ugly, the before.
Right.
Picture what they have to do in the future, what things could come up after you knock down the walls, etc.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then we'll try to, after a couple months and we're done the renovations, we'll try to have our, you know, next monthly meetup at that house as soon after it finishes as possible,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can see the finished product. And that gives them a nice hands-on approach that they might not be getting elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
The meetup itself, you know, anywhere between 50 and 100 people, or 30 and 100 people. And it's a pretty open-ended format. We want them to get the benefit of it. They ask the questions. We let them kind of guide where the meetup goes.
Sure.
But we bring in guest speakers that would be helpful for different parts of the real estate investment industry. We say a quick blurb on what we offer as a mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
And we give them a very quick rundown of what the actual investment that they're standing in is all about. And like I said, the rest is kind of up to them where they want to go with it.
Yeah. Wow. That's really hands-on. It's
Very
about as
handy.
close to hands-on as actually doing the work as you can get.
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's number two. You know,
Mhm.
is if they do want to team up with us and do an investment with us to help get them through, kind of hold their hand through all the sticky points that are
At
very
least
scary.
through the first few deals. That what better way to do it? And that's something that I constantly am encouraging investors to do, is to tag along with somebody who's already learned a lot of the the challenges, and learned what works and learned what doesn't work. And so it certainly can shorten the learning curve and lower the risk scale quite a bit by teaming up. Even if you end, I would say I tell investors, even if they need to give away a lot of the profits on their first couple of deals in order to team up with somebody who really knows what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
it's so worth it. The risk of losing capital is so much less when you really know what you're doing and have a good solid team.
Right. Yeah. That's the way I learned. And being on the lending perspective or side of things, it gives me a different perspective of how all the different experience leveled investors go about things. And
Mhm.
the less experienced, newer investors do lose more
Yeah,
than the experienced ones. There's no
right.
doubt about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
So
according.
when you're doing your mentoring, what are some of the challenges that you see investors have, and specifically maybe along the line of mindset? Or you mentioned early on the idea of some people, and I've certainly seen this myself, where they'll say hard money, well, that's way too expensive to make a deal work. And you and I both know that there are a lot of ways of slicing it to make hard money be almost insignificant in the deal if it's structured properly.
Right.
So, but the initial thought about it is a bank charges 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7%, and hard money is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12%. How can that even work? But part of it, and I'll take the easy piece of this, and part of it is the fact that a lot of the deals are very short term. So that piece of the equation isn't all that great. But
Yep.
from your perspective, what would you say are some of the maybe the mindset challenges that people have that you work with, that you mentor?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably in terms of mindset, the number one roadblock we run into with newer investors is their, I don't want to say employee mindset,
Mm-hmm.
but it's along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Where, newer investors most likely have had many more years of their life to where they're used to the traditional way of doing things.
Yeah.
You work the 9 to 5, you save your money in a savings account, you put it in a retirement account, and you just slowly chip away type of thing.
Yeah.
We know real estate investing is the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to jump.
Yep.
Sometimes you don't know where the ground is. and
Exactly.
and so it's all of those kind of, yeah, employee mindset types of
Mm-hmm.
and so they see a price point on a house of $500,000 and they see an interest rate of 10%, and it's scary. Your
Mm-hmm.
first couple of times, it's a lot of money, a lot of
Right.
money on the table. But they don't understand that there's people are doing this 3, 4, 5 times a month, on end, years on end, and there's millions of us out there doing it.
Yes.
And so it's possible, and you got to trust the process,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so there's obviously tons of due diligence that everyone does in an investment. But what it comes down to is if you don't get the property under contract, you're never going to get it, period.
Yeah. Right.
You got to at least have the confidence to jump out and get the property under contract.
Mm-hmm.
Have a deal that you have control over.
That, along with going in with someone, especially in that case, whether it's a contractor friend that you've worked with, or somebody else who is in the business, doing the business, being able to jump alongside of somebody that's already doing it, it just makes the jump so much easier, so much less scary, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that.
It's funny too. People sometimes don't want a JV on a deal, or they want to keep all the profit to themselves. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they've never done one before. They've done one maybe.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that whole, lone wolf syndrome of wanting to do everything yourself.
Yeah.
And it gets back to what we're saying. Teaming up is the fastest way to learn. Learning from someone that's going to at least get you 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I see that a lot as well.
And what's even worse than 100% of nothing is investing in something, thinking that everything will go just as it should, and being a new active investor, the one that's really in charge of doing all the work, and then losing money on top of it. That's even worse.
Yeah. And that actually just brought up maybe my number one mindset problem I do see with these newer guys is that they have too much emotion in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you know what I mean when you see a decent deal at first, and they try to make the numbers work.
Yes.
This is an investment. It's a risk. You gotta. The way I look at a deal is I'm punching a hole through it every way I can to make it work.
Yeah.
And if I can't destroy the deal, that's a good deal.
Right.
But I see it all the time. And newer investors, they get a deal that looks okay, looks pretty good, and they just try to make the numbers work, squeeze every penny out of it, and really push for the top of the market, and really get a conservative rehab in there. And it's just that's not the way to set up a winning formula.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of the what if scenario. What if I can just get a little bit more? What if it sells for the top end of what I think it'll sell for? What if it doesn't cost quite as much as I think it will? What if the work goes a little faster? But on every single one of those, the opposite is at least equal, and I would say quite a few times more likely to go the opposite way. So all of those questions that we ask ourselves about the positive side, we have to ask them about the negative side too, about the downside of the project. And I like the way you said it. You poke holes into the deal. You keep punching it until you just it doesn't die, and so then it's okay. Then
right.
Okay, let's do that deal.
Right.
But it's about identifying any potential risks, identifying how we can mitigate those risks. If we can't mitigate the risks, then we shouldn't be doing the deal. So,
right. Yeah, I think just the way flipping in general has been so popularized in our society with all the TV shows and all of the fake reality.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's some deals that you can hit a home run on for sure, but if these investors are out there trying to get the home run every time and bend the numbers and make them work, I mean, especially at the beginning, you don't need more than one or two to go bad in your game. You can't even invest. So
right.
Better to be smart and say no a lot more than you say yes.
You had mentioned the work, like the job type of mentality. One of the things that comes to mind for me is the idea of a 9-to-5 job. Just get in there, do some work, get out, be done within 8 hours. A lot of times, you and I know that does not work. It's get in there, get the work done, do whatever it takes to get the project done as quick as possible. And so, unfortunately, we can't. Let's say even let's say I'm an investor, a passive, an active investor. I find a project and I'm ready to go, and I can spend all the time I want to get the project done. I mean, I'll do whatever it takes to get it done on time in my mind, but I also have the team that I need to bring in, that I need to rely on to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So all the determination in the world that I have to make it happen on time, on budget, I only have that much control, which is within myself. Yeah, I can hire different contractors. I can do a lot of things to mitigate the risks of things going over time or things going over budget.
Right.
But that's why it's so critical to really know our team and be able to understand that they are going to perform and that the project will get done on time, on budget. Otherwise, it's all the profits that get eaten up. And so,
yeah, I preach having a good team. I
mhm,
do, for sure.
yeah.
You gotta have
And
experience. You gotta have people that are on the same page and in it for the right reasons.
yeah, yeah. Now, some of those mindset issues, how do you, any particular way that you address them? Any things that you do to help them sort of switch their mindset?
Yeah. I don't have a, winning recipe to tell you. It's a lot of coaching, a lot of mentoring, a lot of just working with people, because it's the way society has brought us up,
Mhm.
and many investors are getting into the game in their, let's say, late 30s, early 40s, or later. So they
Yeah,
have 50 years of thinking one way, and then I just tell them to think the other way. It's not going to work.
yeah, yeah.
So, it's usually a combination of discussing it with them a few times, really giving them examples,
Hmm.
showing them how this works on our end. And
Yeah.
then a lot of times I'll bring in a guest speaker of another investor who does it in a different area of the country,
Hmm.
whatever the case may be, and show them how he did it. And
Hmm.
see, there's many different ways to skin the cat, but they all had the same mindset, and it's really getting out of that mindset. And I don't have a winning formula to share with you that
Hmm.
helps people get out of those mindsets faster, because everyone's different.
Yeah.
Uh, you got to be open. You
Hmm.
got to be, this is investing. This isn't, you're getting your money to work for you rather than working for your money. And so
Yeah.
it's a complete switch, and that takes time. So
Right.
the only thing that's common across them all is that I have to stay patient, and
Hmm.
they have to stay patient. And once they get a taste of it, that's usually the winning formula right there.
Yeah.
Once they allow themselves to do it once, and they feel, oh, okay, I just created this money
Yeah.
by using my money.
Yeah. That's, and,
And
and as a mentor, that's one of the best feelings you can have, is when somebody has been able to really make it work and come out smiling. They've made good profit on it, and things have really worked out. That's where the rewards for mentoring really come in.
yeah, and that's where the JV mentorship plays a big role. If we can
Hmm.
feel comfortable by going into this deal, they are in fact changing their mindset a little bit.
Yeah.
And when they see that, oh, it works,
Yeah.
well, then now they're trained a little bit more on them. They're on their own.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say is, if you were to give investors, and let's take both sides of the equation, the passive investor who has money they might want to invest, or the active investor who has a deal where the two might work together, any advice that you would give either side, just with all the experience that you've had, any advice you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, I constantly try to provide lots of advice
Hmm.
on multiple different places, to help all my clients and anyone else interested in the industry. I think, some of the biggest pieces of advice would just be you can't be too conservative. You can't do too much due diligence.
Hmm.
You know, don't shoot for the stars. If the market is suggesting a range in values, don't say you're definitely going to get the top.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's don't bet on appreciation. Those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And
So
all,
maybe
always
being
play for growth.
conservative.
What's that?
So maybe being conservative
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
across the board, conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And so where do you see yourself in the next 5 years from now? Where would you like to, as an investor, or even just you personally, where do you see your life going? Anything you'd like to share with us on that line?
Yeah, well, I mean, moving out here to California, I went through a really big change in my life. Kind of all things bad happened to me at once.
Yeah.
25 years of having a pretty stable, straightforward life kind of came crashing down and forced me to really focus on what's important in life and, get my mindset correct. And so that was a turning point for me. And I have since then, really changed my life and got into the real estate investment side of things. And I love it. And I really love helping people. And I can see the benefit and the possibility for almost anyone to do this when it comes to real estate investing. And so, I was a personal trainer in college, and I've always enjoyed helping people. And so I think that's what's good about this mentorship is that and even with just the lending, I feel like, hey, I'm helping you by providing you financing to get a deal done. Yeah. So I think that's what I enjoy about it. And so 5 years from now, I'd love to be doing everything on a bigger scale. So my mentorship business is really turning a lot of clients into real full-time investors, experienced investors. I would love for that to be a full-fledged known company that people really take advantage of. And at the same time, I would still be investing myself into, I want to get into some bigger commercial deals myself, big development deals. So
yeah, we'll get to work together on some projects here in the near future, maybe. So
yeah, for sure.
We've got some pretty nice ones going right now. If you, this is maybe a little odd question, but if you had the opportunity to put a message on a billboard in Times Square in New York that you could tell the world, what would that message be?
It's a good question. Go for it. Mm-hmm. In the simplest of words. Mm-hmm. Once again, coming out to San Diego, I hit my lowest point in my life, and that's when I learned everything. Everything was when I'm faced with adversity. Yeah. And so ever since then, that was the hardest time of my life. And so ever since then, all of other life challenges that I've been faced with have been nothing. And they've really been terrible in the moment. Right. And I think back and I remember that all adversity times have only taught me how to succeed more, how to get to the next level. Yeah. So I truly feel that every downfall, every quote unquote failure is just your test to learn to get to the next level. And so, that's what I want to portray to everybody is, embrace those adversity moments, embrace the uncomfortable. That's when you're growing. Yeah, no kidding. I've had a couple of those myself. And the thing about it is that what I find is after the first time, at least the second time around, I knew that if I can just make it through it, or when I make it through it, it will be much better. And that I know that I will have learned a lot more and I'll be that much better for it. But man, it's hard sometimes when you're right in the middle of the storm to be able to say, rah, rah, I'm glad this is happening because I'm going to be so good later on. Right. And so, so I would echo what you're saying. Absolutely. To be able to try and keep the attitude while things are really in the worst position possible, as much as possible, just because it will get better. It always does. And it just makes us so much stronger for it. Yeah. So yeah, that's so true. How about your mentoring and your basically the mentoring, what you do with your teaching and the going out to the job sites? How would someone get in touch with you if they were interested in more information? And that's in San Diego, right? Yeah. The mentorships are for Southern California mainly. Mm-hmm. I've dabbled in many different things on a personal note. My website, benstedley.com, will be a resource for many people with tons of articles that I've personally written regarding mindset, regarding real estate investing, regarding entrepreneurship, starting businesses, and they all come back to mindset. Mindset is very important. I couldn't agree with you more. So all my contact info is on benstedley.com. My mentorship info is there too. Mentoring on any sort of business, not just real estate, but just kind of getting a business mindset, business ownership mindset, and how to grow that business is really what my website's all about. There it also has a link to the real estate financing and everything like that I do as well.
Okay, great.
Probably the easiest one stop for you.
Okay, and we'll put that in the show notes. So if anybody's listening while you're driving, don't try to jot this down. It will be in the show notes, benstedley.com, and it's right there on the site. Or do they have to opt in or anything? Or
no opt in. Everything is there, open, free. My contact info is there. If they want to contact me directly, or they can put a email in there at the bottom somewhere for my newsletters and whatnot. So
great.
It's self-explanatory. It's straightforward, one pager with the blog.
Okay. And what's your meetup called?
My meetup is called San Diego House Flip Mentors.
Okay. San Diego House Flip Mentors.
Yep. And it's right on meetup.com.
Okay. And we'll get that in the show notes as well. And so, yeah, this has really been great. Appreciate you taking your time out of your busy day, and looking forward to maybe doing some deals together. And I just before you go, I want to make sure the listeners, anybody listening to this, anybody watching it, if you have any suggestions, any ideas of topics that you'd like us to cover, to dig in deeper on, or if you have if there are certain things you like about the show or certain things you think we could improve on, we'd love to hear from you. It's as simple as going to either Stitcher, iCloud, iTunes, and subscribing. It helps us a lot if we get reviews written on iTunes, because that helps. It gets our ratings up a little bit higher, so we can share this message out with more people. And just really would love to hear feedback on any ways that you think we could improve this. And so I think, and we'll get everything in the show notes, but for now, Ben, thank you very much for being on the show. It's been a real pleasure.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Tom. Appreciate it.
Thank you.